So Final Fantasy XIV keeps breaking my head. I finished Heaven's Word and I thought it was a great expansion. It's got an interesting theme. The whole thing about the dragon is a little bit cliche, but they managed to put in some aspects of the church and mix it with the whole mythology about dragons, which I found very interesting. Although I didn't find anything too deep in that. It is the overarching core mythos and core lore of the whole story that has me pretty intrigued. Especially at the end of Heaven's Word, when you go in the between Heaven's Word and Stormblood, you meet these warriors of darkness. Now, I've spoken about this before. I made a video about this duality and how Final Fantasy XIV started to approach this larger theme in philosophy, which is the explanation of evil. And when I saw these warriors of darkness, I knew they were going straight in there, but I didn't even know they were gonna go that far. Now, as I do in this channel, my goal in this channel is to correlate some of the lores in MMORPGs, in RPGs, in video games, in media at large. Maybe I'll go into that in the future, and correlate it with some of the real research on these themes, talking about multiverses, talking about parallel realities, talking about the afterlife, talking about the myths of creation, the gods and goddesses, etc. All mythology, and what do we have in the real life research about these things. Now, when you meet the Warriors of Darkness, you have this sort of special scene where you and the leader of the Warriors of Darkness kind of have one of these episodes, these altered state of consciousness episodes, where you go into a different frame of reality, like into this cosmic space where you go through the echo, and then you see things from the past and whatnot. So that he recognizes you as the Warrior of Light. You know that he is some sort of a Warrior of Light, but opposite, going with the theme of duality there. But then it goes a little bit deeper into it. You see those scenes of them fighting the Ascians and him wielding a weapon much like the weapon that you wield where it is made of ether, of light, to overcome the Ascians, this evil that plagues the lands of Eorsia, or whatever world in this case we're talking about. Final Fantasy lore is quite complicated, and there seems to be all these shards and all these worlds which are reflections of the other, or the source, or something of that nature. But then when you meet them, they are against you. They are your enemies. They tell you they are your enemies. Why? It doesn't make sense. They used to be the Warriors of Light. So you go forward and then you meet them again, and they finally explain to you that they introduce you to this event that I had no idea, maybe because I didn't pay attention in the hundreds and hundreds of hours that Realm Reborn took, and then Heaven's Word, or I don't know, maybe I'm just too much of a noob to Final Fantasy XIV story, but they talk about this event called the Sundering. Now, I became very curious about this Sundering event, and I had to spoil myself to reveal this spoiler for myself, because I am just too curious about it, and it's huge. Like, this Sundering thing is huge, and there's some aspects of it that I am really gonna go into in the future, especially the fact that there is this perfect society that crumbles because of the thoughts of the people, of the negativity of the people. They tell you, it's kind of hidden there, it tells you something about just like the prayers create primals, our fears and our dread can literally manifest these beings, these evil beings, which, bring societies to collapse. If you go into some of the other narratives and some of the other mythologies, the idea of the Daedra and just these portals opening and this evil coming out of nowhere, World of Warcraft, the Scourge and whatever, like, this is a core idea that our ideas create these negative entities which come out of nowhere. Now this is huge. This is huge in the real research. This is what occultism is based upon. But in any case, I'm gonna approach that in the future, because that's something coming in Shadowbringers, which I'm just thrilled to go through, because it seems that it's just mind-blowing. But what I'm gonna focus here is just the basis of this sundering, which create this quote-unquote flooding of light. Now this has to do, as I said, with the theme of explaining evil, explaining this balance. Now this sundering thing, well, whatever happened, and there was a thing that the main core that they have you known at that point is that there was the source world, this perfect Eden sort of world, which was starting to collapse, and then primals emerged in between them, Heidelin, and then what she did is she created reflections of these sources, these different worlds of the same world, where they all have these shards of light and dark, the duality, these forces that are always fighting each other, the light and the void, light and shadow, light and darkness. It's just always the same thing. It's the same story repeating over and over in our stories, in our fantasies, in our media, in our religions, everywhere. Could there be any truth to it? I think so, because this is in the real research as well. So these warriors of darkness explained to you that they were the warriors of light in their world, and they were actually victorious. They eliminated the Asian threat, and this quote-unquote flooding of light came by, destroying all life itself, all creation. Everything was destroyed by this perfect blank light. And this is a theme that is it's out there in the real literature. The concept of nirvana, the concept of going into this perfect space, into this perfect scenario. There are quite a few people who claim that they have achieved this feat, just like the Buddha. He went to nirvana, he went to this state of bliss, this state of perfection. Now we have real literature on this. There are some people who claim they have been in this space. Modern people who are being researched in mainstream media, and now I'm gonna put these names out here for you to Google them, and for the 2 or 3 people who are gonna watch this video, because they're gonna be, oh, this is not lore, this is just craziness what's been spoken here, this is whatever. Google Robert Monroe and read about what he says about out-of-body experiences. I made a video about this on the Echo, this concept of leaving your body and going into this cosmic space and just being able to see the past and even the future. This is a real thing. So this person, this researcher, Robert Monroe spoke about this. There's another one called named Tom Campbell, who has a theory of everything. He used to be a NASA physicist, and he mastered this out-of-body experience, the ability to go outside your body and explore the cosmos, explore these different dimensions. This is a real thing. This is in real literature, and if you go down that rabbit hole, you will understand that some of the things that are narratives, our philosophies, our mythologies are saying are not so far-fetched. This is just not a stupid game. Media, all these ideas are simply a reflection of something else. I've been speaking about this for a while, but this specific thing about reaching this aspect of nirvana, which seems like it would be utter perfection, perhaps this utter perfection is not the best for existence, and duality is needed for existence to exist in the first place. Being very redundant here, this is a real theme, this is a real theory which tries to explain duality, tries to explain evil. Why is there evil? Why is there this balance? And this is something that the game started to approach. If everything is good, if there's no evil, everything is perfect, people live forever, and there's nothing against the light is gonna consume everything. There's not gonna be existence, there's not gonna be experience, there's not gonna be feelings, emotions, there's not gonna be anything, there's not gonna be a game, there's not gonna be drama, there is no possibility for creation. if everything is light. There needs to be this balance, this this push and pull. This is an occult law. More specifically, this is the law of polarity, which claims that there needs to be the opposite of whatever in order for the first one to exist in the first place. Light and dark, night and day, so on and so forth. So going back to these individuals who claim that they went to this nirvana, that they saw this space of unity. A lot of people coming from near-death experiences and some other altered state of consciousness experiences. What is an altered state of consciousness? When your character in Final Fantasy XIV has this headache and he goes into this cosmic plane where he sees Hydaelyn or some other people or things. This is an altered state of consciousness, and these are real in the literature. Just Google altered state of consciousness. When people go into these states, they claim that they can go into this space of pure bliss. They have these amazing experiences, these outwardly experiences. These are quite a real thing. So what these people are saying is that once they realize that although it's perfect, there is nothing. There has to be something. And this brings a larger issue, because one of the biggest issues in philosophy is to explain and to justify evil, to justify suffering. And a lot of the theories suggest that suffering and evil exist as this polarity, to counter what is good, what is righteous, what is correct, what is light, what is positive, for it to exist in the first place. If you go deeper in the literature, it is explained that this polarity exists as some sort of a school, as some sort of a learning process for beings to come into the world, into this process of reincarnation, which Final Fantasy XIV addresses, just going back and forward from life. And they said like, oh yeah, the gods deem this the way that things have to be. You die, you go into the ether, then you come back as something else, and so on and so forth. The Ascians avoided this by going into the in-between, some sort of an astral plane. So in the real literature, the idea of this polarity is that, and this system of reincarnation is for these beings, for these souls to learn things, to learn about this righteousness. And the idea is that, and I'm not talking about any specific religion, I'm talking about some modern research and some modern theories based on these modern altered states of consciousness experiences. Go entheogens, Google. I know you don't believe me, I know you're watching this video and going like, what the hell is this guy talking about, even if you made it so far into this place. This is why I don't really care about this channel anymore a lot, in terms of making money or in terms of being successful. What I want to do is share the reality behind what these video games are presenting. So Google entheogens, Google near-death experiences, Google out-of-body experiences, Google all these things, and just read a bunch of literature on it and forums and whatnot. I'm not talking about religions, I'm talking about a real thing, a real theme, which sometimes religions stumble upon, or more toward times, sometimes our narratives and our fantasies stumble upon as well. So the idea of all this madness that's happening, and existence and creation and polarity and all of this, is for beings and souls to learn this idea of righteousness, because the idea is to create this perfect world, this perfect creation, which in the lore in Final Fantasy XIV existed in the first place. And the idea in the literature is that one day all these souls are going to learn all these experiences, they're going to learn all these lessons, are going to learn how to, just like in this first series before the Sundering Final Fantasy XIV, when everything was going perfect, where people lived forever. I think they say either live forever or live for long periods of time. There was no wars, not too many differences. People just wanted peace and just wanted to live their best lives, create some sort of heaven, some sort of Eden, but they couldn't create it because their own thoughts manifested these demons which came out of nowhere. Because this the idea is that you are more than a body, you are the echo itself. You're not your body, you're the echo itself. You're this field, this whatever, this ether. In the realm of Final Fantasy, the word would be ether. You are the ether itself. You are the energy of creation itself. So the idea is that at one point there's gonna be this event where all of these souls are gonna come together with all their experiences and are gonna create this perfect place. They're gonna ascend to a higher dimension where they're gonna be able to create their own world. Now, I don't know, as I'm saying, this is just the literature, this is what they're saying, this is what some of the ancient philosophers in real life are saying. And in terms of Final Fantasy XIV lore, there is this concept of the rejoining, which is one of the things that the Ascians are trying to do, I believe, which is why I just want to skip Stormblood and go straight into Shadowbringers, hoping that at least in Stormblood there's going to be some background sort of lore thing like it happened all throughout the Realm Reborn and Heavensward, which I was more interested into this overarching mythos behind whatever narrative they're presenting you with the characters, this whole mythos of creation. Now they speak about this rejoining, this large event, this catastrophe, which I think in Final Fantasy XIV lore are called the calamities, and supposedly as all this tragedy, all this death. I approached this theme in another video game, World of Warcraft. Yes, everything that we perceive as a catastrophe, as something very bad, perhaps in larger terms, in universal terms, is something that perhaps needs to happen, or it's not the worst thing that can happen. I'm not really sure. I think this is what the Ascians want, this rejoining, this going back to the source, bringing the reflections back to the source. In any case, I don't really know. I'm trying to understand. I even try to spoil myself and just go and Google all these things, but I just don't understand it. I probably need to play the game and actually go through it to understand it, and to get a better idea of exactly what we're talking about here. Is highly complicated, and this is what I love about Final Fantasy XIV lore. But in any case, as I said, there seems to be a purpose for this evil, for all this darkness, for this balance between the warriors of light and the warriors of darkness, this void and this light. I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen, and if this is the only possibility, the calamities, the rejoining, or is there another possibility? What's gonna happen? I'm very, very curious, because as I said, this mythology in Final Fantasy XIV truly is approaching something that is in real life literature, research, and data coming from the real research on these topics. But in any case, I think I've been babbling for too long and going on for too long now. I know this is a little bit strange, but it ties to the lore, it ties to what we're starting to see with these lores kind of going further, and our mainstream media starting to approach these cosmic themes. I think the reason, if you ask anyone why is Final Fantasy XIV a very good game, the first thing they're going to tell you is the lore, and that is because the lore is highly existential. It's approaching what it is to be human, and that is the largest question of our times. If you would like to know more about the lore surrounding these fantasy narratives and how they perhaps connect to real life theories and philosophies, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, as I will try to find these connections and explore the possibilities that these lores can provide. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.